the way, we're live, so great.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go all in and put myself out there. Is that part of your model, right?
Part of it. Now, I can't take all the credit for figuring out that it was in the nonprofit world. I did always think I can sell. I know how to sell. I come from a line of salesmen. My grandfather, my father, even my brother's in sales. We all like to sell. We all connect with people.
Welcome to Opportunity Knocks. I can't believe I'm saying this. Episode 10. Episode 10 of Opportunity Knocks. And my guest today is the one and only, listen, the only guy who can make probate fun, or funny too. And that's Mike Wild. Mike, so good to have you here, man.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Great to be here.
Such an honor to have you here, man. So first, you got to tell me, how do you do it, man? How do you do how many nonprofits are you involved in right now?
Oh, geez. So I'm on the board of 6. So I'm chairing 2 of them right now. I'm the chairman of the board of Handy and the chairman of the board of Art Broward. I'm the past chair of 201 Broward. I'm on the executive board for the Boys and Girls Club. I'm on the Nova Southeastern Ambassador Board and a fellow there. Plus, I run their entire planned giving and legacy giving.
And you have a business too.
And I have a business.
You work.
And then I'm also on the Broward Sheriff's Advisory Council. So
Jeez.
and then I'm involved also with a couple other nonprofits like Children's Harbor and Flight, but not at a board level. So yeah, a lot of my time is spent charity-wise,
awesome.
And then 2 young kids, and then the rest is work. So
wow, I don't know how you have time, man. Good for you. And
that's why I'm still a 17 handicap.
That's right. So, take me back to the beginning, the UF days. So this podcast is Opportunity Knocks. Now, the goal of this podcast is we're talking to successful South Florida entrepreneurs, and we want to find out opportunity, I believe, knocks all the time on your door. It's just when people take advantage of or when they. So I'd like to hear your story of how you got into probate first, because you're at UF. Did you know that was your clear path? As a kid, did you grow up saying, I want to be a probate lawyer?
No. I always knew I was going to be an attorney, but, when I was growing up, LA Law was my show, so that and Boston Legal later on, stuff like that. So I thought I was going to litigate. When I went into law school, I even did a little bit of trial team, and I still remember this one trial where I gave the closing argument for, it was an insurance case where the insurance company was trying to say the guy killed himself. The wife was there trying to say no, he just asphyxiated by accident in the car in the garage, stuff like that. But so it was, and when I gave my closing, the jury was crying, and so the girl who was in law school with me, she says, "You're like the best attorney." But then the problem is, what I realized is it's not all openings and closings. In fact, very rarely does a trial even get in front of a judge or a jury, or definitely get the closing. Right. They all just settle. And so when I graduated law school, I did want to always be an estate planning attorney at that point. I had a great estate planning professor in law school. He was very funny. His name was Doug Miller.
Shout out to Doug Miller.
Shout out to Doug Miller, if he's still there. And so I still remember the first day, he said, "What is estate planning?" He said, "It's what happens to your shit when you die." And he talked about, that his...
so he had that personality that you kind of kept moved to your business.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
I mean, even his exam, he had his mostly multiple choice, but then one part was an essay about a guy who was trying to divorce his wife and was trying to figure out ways to hide the money. And you had to come up with ways to go offshore or come up with different family partnerships, stuff like that. It's a very cool asset protection question. He used to also bring up examples of, him and his mom get along, but his mom doesn't like his son and his choices. So when they go on a flight, he puts his mom in first class. So when they hit the mountain, he inherits from the mom, and then the son can inherit from him. Things like that. So it was very funny. And then when I graduated, I knew I wanted to start my own firm because I always have been entrepreneurial, and I knew that it was going to be in estate planning. But I started in litigation because I needed to learn how to run a law firm. So I went to a small law firm. And I went to court every single day. Went to Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach, and just you bought the camera.
Oh yeah. That's right. Our professional camera work. By the way, we're live, so great.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I went to court every single day, and every single day it was all just. It had nothing to do with the law. It had nothing to do with challenging, fighting. It was all just knowing the judge.
Yeah, all connections, all relationships, and networking.
Yep.
So that leads to my next question, which, what made you, it was that kind of a strategy when you started your practice is, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go all in and put myself out there, donate a lot of time, commit. Is that part of your model, right? Your business?
Part of it. Now, I can't take all the credit for figuring out that it was in the nonprofit world. I did always think I can sell. I know how to sell. I come from a line of salesmen. My grandfather, my father, even my brothers in sales. We all like to sell. We all connect with people. But learning the area of law, that was something I had to do on the fly. Now, when I first started, this will date me a little bit. It was 15 years ago when I started my firm, and my first office was a Borders. They don't even have Borders anymore. I was in my suit, I had my laptop, and I was using their Wi-Fi, and I just was trying to figure out, well, how do I mean, the death rate's 100%, right? So everyone needs estate planning. So how do I find business? And I thought about just getting business cards, walking up and down Las Olas, and be like, hey, you need a will? You need a trust? Whatever. So then I started networking. Now, first I started doing the for-profit networking. You know, a couple of the groups you're in with me, you know, the golf group, 6 Degrees, the lunch group over at Vienna Cafe with all my friends and your brother. And so we started doing that. I started doing BNIs and NPIs. I met a lot of these people through that. But I realized that the for-profit, it was more like I was participating in their business as much as we were really trying to help each other. That's why the groups that I'm involved with now, they're less about, hey, we have to fill seats.
Yeah.
Hey, there's dues. You know, it's
fill out the slip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
None of
it's
that
all
nonsense.
Relationships.
Correct.
Exactly.
I don't care how many referrals people are giving me. We're all trying to help the same people.
Exactly.
Help each other.
Yep.
So I stopped doing the for-profit as much when I started getting into nonprofits. Now, the person who got me most into nonprofits is Bob Birdsong, a very close friend of mine to this day, where he was the vice chair of 211 Broward, and he said, hey, you know what, I had done his estate plan, we became friends, we became golfing buddies, and he said, I'm going to bring you on the board when I become the chair. And I said, well, I don't even know what 211 does. At the time, I didn't, and I was 30.
Was this your first board?
My first board technically was Senior Volunteer Services. Okay. I was brought into that board after I gave a presentation called Not Another Golf Tournament, why nonprofits are getting fundraising wrong. The idea being that I love playing golf. I go to these golf tournaments. I don't even know what charity I'm playing for.
Yeah.
You know? Or the galas. Exactly. Now I would say not another gala.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's true.
You have to be creative.
Yeah.
And so I did this presentation, and John Gargado, who was the chair of Senior Volunteer Services at the time, got me on that board. That board had an average age of about 117. So the joke was we needed to euthanize the board in more ways than one.
Cocoon.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but then Bob got me onto the 211 board, and on that board, I was the smallest house in that cul-de-sac. I mean, that board had not just Bob, but Lynn Wines, who was running a bank, John Benz, who ran the whole Memorial Healthcare system, Greg Hale, who was a lawyer at the time, but later became the dean and the president of Broward College, Mike Keeby, who runs Brown & Brown in South Florida. Yeah. So all these big
powerhouses.
Powerhouses. Like I said, I was the smallest house in that cul-de-sac. But whenever I'd have an idea, I'd just be outspoken about it, you know, and they would welcome it. It wasn't like, hey, kid, like, you're here just because you're Bob's friend. No. And I volunteered my way to the top of that board, and I became chair of that board. But throughout that process, I mean, it just was introduced to a tremendous group of leaders, which, as anyone who volunteers in the nonprofit world knows, in every county, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. So I got to meet the 20% of the people. Yep. From there, Bob brought me onto the Handy board, which I'm now the chair of years later. And I started, first of all, if you're an estate planning attorney under the age of 70, they're going to want you on every board because they want the plan giving part of it. Right. But the fact that I also was dynamic and business focused was helpful to the board as a whole.
And I'd say marketing, like a marketing genius. I mean, you know how to market yourself, you know, when it comes, and tell quickly the story of the jacket, the pink.
Pink jacket. Yeah. So that's another charity I'm involved with, American
Cancer
Society.
That's 211, isn't it?
That's American Cancer Society. So American Cancer Society, my very good friend Katie Masucci, who now works at Northern Trust, she was the major gifts officer at American Cancer Society, and I met her actually at a 211 event I want to say 10, 12 years ago that I was emceeing. And so I was because I was, again, I'm not afraid of a microphone. I've never met a camera or a microphone in my life. So I ran that, and she said, I got to get you involved with American Cancer Society. And at that time, I was on 10 nonprofit boards. I was involved with 14 different charities as far as doing events and running them, like March of Dimes, Leukemia Lymphoma Society, all these different ones. And so she said, I need you to do Real Men Wear Pink. And I said, Katie, if I ask any more people for money, nobody's going to take my calls. And I need to run a business. I need to ask people for money, like for what I do for a living, not just for charities. So I came up with the idea. I said, what am I known for better than anybody? And that's networking.
Mhm.
So I stole the idea from soccer and NASCAR, and I just said they put the logos all over. So I said, all right, I'm going to get a pink jacket, and I'm going to put logos on my back.
Genius.
For a $300 donation to the American Cancer Society.
So
I will
awesome.
draw your logo, and I will wear it around at 31 straight days of October, because October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So that was 9 years ago. Then 9 straight years, I've raised $60,000 or more.
You're kidding me.
For American
Good
Cancer
for
Society.
you, man. That's awesome.
And honestly, I didn't mean it to be
Advertising platform. Yeah,
I didn't mean to be like selfish. I was trying to help American Cancer Society, but I became the guy with the pink jacket to where random people, waiters and car attendants, and
that's
they'll be like,
awesome.
"Where's your pink jacket?" I'm like, "It's only May. You know, you gotta wait till."
Well, you know what's so good about this story, Mike, is that in business, a lot of times people are guarded and they protect, but with this, you want people to copy that. You want people to do it in different, not all over the place. So if somebody in Idaho hears about this and sees that, you know what? Let me get a pink jacket and raise money for. I mean, I think that's a movement I think you've created, because again, it's something. And I don't know if you know people that are doing it.
Well, it's funny you should say that. That did happen. So American Cancer Society National got wind of it, and they gave me in 2019, I think it was. They gave me Advisor of the Year for the whole nation because of the pink jacket, and because I had a couple $1 million of donations through life insurance also. But I was then the following year in Nashville for a bachelor party, but it was October, so I was wearing the pink jacket, and a lady comes up to me. She goes, "I know you." She said, "I am
in Nashville."
She goes, "I'm the CEO of American Cancer Society Indian River County, and they did a talk about you, and they said they want our guys to start doing stuff like you're doing." And that was in Nashville, Tennessee, that someone recognized the pink jacket.
So everything we're hearing, by the way, right now is all opportunity that knocked, and Mike took advantage of it. And that's the key, again, to this is little things like you talking to Bob Birdsong and him saying, "I want you to join." None of this would have happened, I don't think, if that was that. But you saw that opportunity. A lot of people would say, "Oh, yeah, I can't be with these guys. Are all heat monsters, and I'm just young, hotshot attorney. I'm not going to fit in there." You took the chance. When you opened the door when opportunity knocked, and that's what this podcast is all about. Is to give advice on how you did it, so somebody else that's listening to this could say, "I can do that." I love that, man. I love the story. So let's go now to the business side of things because I want to know how. Yeah, you mentioned 100% of people are going to die. 100% of people are going to need to hire, or not all of them are going to do it. Unfortunately, the dangers of not hiring or having a will and having getting. Why don't you talk a little bit, not high level, but give us like an overview of what's the risk? Like, why do you need that?
Sure. Well, most people, and you and your brother are both clients of mine, so you guys did the right things. But most people don't realize wills don't do anything. A will, if you have minor children, will appoint guardians for those children, but it forces all the assets into probate. So you're going to fall one of two categories. Either you don't have any physical assets, like a business or a house or any real estate investments or anything like that, but you can have beneficiary designations on your bank accounts, brokerage accounts. You can avoid probate, but you can't avoid guardianship there if you name your minor children as the beneficiaries, and you definitely can't protect them from things like divorce, creditors, litigation, bankruptcy, estate tax, whatever it might be. Whereas if you do have a trust of any kind, even a simple trust can avoid probate and get you at least protection from an age standpoint. The trust I have for my kids protects them even further, so that way it's a dynasty trust. It protects even my great-great-grandkids that I might not ever meet, protects them from those type of things. Because in Florida, the trust can last up to 360 years, which state of Florida will be underwater before then, so it's basically forever.
No way. Oh, wow. So if you get a trust done, it'll last 360.
Yeah.
That's wild. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. In Florida, and the only state longer is South Dakota, but then you have to live in South Dakota.
So that's even what makes more sense to get that done. It's like that's a one-time, like once you do the trust, obviously you have to update it and you have to meet with, in this case, you to go through it, especially with real estate going, seeing what we've seen in South Florida these last, 3-4 years. Real estate's doubled, triple some properties have. That asset right there is what you're talking about. So give me a real life situation. If somebody, talk to me like I'm a fifth grader.
No.
So somebody owns a house. That's their biggest asset. Say they have $200,000 in equity in that house.
Yeah.
They pass away. Their kids, everybody's left, but they don't have this trust set up. What happens to that? Walk me through like that process.
Sure. So if we have a situation where the person is 75 years old and they have one adult child, it's probably not the end of the world. because we go through probate. It takes a few months. It'll cost $5-6 grand, whatever it might be, but they'll get it. Where the problems happen are with minor kids, or if it's not, if you don't have any kids, that's a big problem too, or if you have different percentages that you want going. So if you have a probate of a homestead property, for instance, and it goes to 3 children, 2 of which get along, 1 doesn't, then there's an issue because all 3 are on the deed and they all have to agree. And that's usually when a real estate litigation attorney comes in to quiet the title and divide the asset. It becomes an issue.
Yeah.
If it's in the trust, even if you're not worried about the probate avoidance, at least you put one person in charge. Sometimes that's one of the children. Sometimes it's a friend or relative. Sometimes it's an attorney.
And they have the authority to make the decisions.
Exactly.
That's the key. It's the control over, because otherwise 3 people, it's not going to work when one of them disagree.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure you see that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Let's switch gears now to the marketing side. Let's talk about some fun stuff because, I would say I've seen a lot of, we talked about the pink jacket. That's from a nonprofit side, not your business, but is there anything you've done on a probate side? Obviously I've heard you stand up and do your fun commercials and you make people laugh and stuff like that. But is there anything like, as far as like a tactic that you did that we could take away and say, if he could do that in probate, I could definitely do it in, e-commerce or whatever it is, that business that somebody's listening to. Is there anything that you could say, here's something I did, a tactic that I got really good results on?
Absolutely. And in fact, advice I gave to someone too. So in that category, own what you do. Don't try to sugarcoat what you do.
Love that.
Don't call probate grief counseling. That's not what it is. When someone comes to me and they say, my husband just died, they don't want me to give them a hug and talk to them about, tell me some of the memories you had with your husband. No, they're like, how do I get the assets away from the court and to my family where I can protect them? The grieving, in fact, I tell my clients all the time, when I draft the estate plan, if I'm the person who drafted the trust, they're not going through probate, they will come to me and they'll say, what do I have to do? And I'm like, nothing. You grieve. I've already done it.
Yeah.
It's done. It's protected.
That's great. Yeah.
And it's it's not a happy moment, but it is for me, knowing that I provided them with
something off their table. Yeah. That's
someone dies. Yeah. I mean, think about it. We had it in your family when your dad died, to know that everything's taken care of and you don't have to worry about it. It's a relief.
That's right.
And so same thing with mine. When my grandmother passed last year, my dad and my aunt and my uncle were like, oh, well, what do you have to do? I'm like, nothing. We've done it all. We took care of it. So having that peace of mind. But when it comes to probate, if you can't laugh about death, what can you laugh about? You got to own it. That's why you hear me say the death rate's 100%. Or like what I do, I talk about Mother's Day. She brought you into this world. Help her get out of it by getting her an estate plan. So those type of things are you have to laugh about it because everyone Dave Matthews actually once said, once you accept that you're going to die, then you can start living. And I love that quote. I had a young woman that worked for a funeral home, and she used to always hide what she did. She was embarrassed to talk about death. She felt like she'd be upsetting people, and she would talk about I do, I help you when you're grieving, and I help with it. And I go, just own the fact that you bury people. Because the fact is, nobody wants piles of dead people in the streets. Yeah. You're doing a service.
Yeah, right.
If you're a plumber and you're like, well, I'm a hydro engineer, it's like, no, you're fixing my toilet. Yeah. It's a necessity. I love it. Own it. Own the fact that you fix my toilet. I need that service.
Love that.
And it also, if you try to hide what it is you do, and this is at every level, it's hard for people to hire you. I've gotten business cards from people that it doesn't say what they do on it. Financial advisors does not say anywhere on it that they invest money. Attorneys doesn't say what area of law they do. I'm like, how would I know to call you if you're not telling me what it is you do?
Yes.
So it's
I think a lot of people struggle with that, and including myself. I mean, look, when you're doing, especially building a new business like I'm doing right now, and I'll give you a perfect example. This Sprinter, part of the business model, we're doing a podcast now. We're talking about part of my business model is I believe so much in content, just like you. I mean, I know the power of it, and the better the content is, the more authentic it is.
Sure.
It positions you as the authority, and this Sprinter just gives that little, it makes it different, because everybody's sitting on a Zoom, with their camera right by it just looks like it's the same thing all the time. But this is a little twist to it. So I said, I could create content for business owners in here. I've had a hard time describing that as how, so I'd love that you coach me on this. So in other words, this is a service that I'm offering businesses. And by the way, it's not only they come in. They let me give you the backstory of it, and I'd love to hear you come up with this is fun. So the model is, when I had my SEO company, we were doing SEO. I realized the real value in SEO is the work that's done ahead of time. So in the beginning, when you do research on keywords, on how people are searching online, if you do that right, SEO is really the easy part. That anybody can do it. A lot of people, but if you not a lot of people can do the research the right way. So if you don't pick the right keywords, for example, or understand how people are searching online, it doesn't matter what you do deliver. You could be on page one for every term, but if they're not searching for that, it's useless. So that part of it I became really good at, is that research part. And when I came here, when I started this Sprinter business, I said, I'm going to do that research for a business. So let's say it's let's say probate. So what questions are people asking online? And we research. There's a website called Answer the Public. There's a lot of them, but it tells you these are how people are going to YouTube. Remember, YouTube's the second largest. People love hearing people, watching people rather, explain something. So, what's the, after how long does probate last? Let's say that's a question. People are asking it. So what I do is I bring the client in. I have about 50 questions that I fire. So it's a Q&A. Instead of a podcast like we're doing, it's just one question after another, and we're there for an hour. I then take that content, cut it up, post it on YouTube, and I've become recently, obsessed with YouTube marketing and how to rank, because it's the second largest search engine.
Yeah.
And it's what I'm doing now. Look, I went from 1 subscriber a month ago to almost over 5,000. I think I got now today. So
all my kid watches.
Yeah, that's all they know. They don't know ABC and CVC.
Yeah.
So what happens now is I take that, I optimize it, and then over time, there's 50 pieces of content that's going to rank on Google. My challenge, so giving you the background of that, my challenge is, how do I create what I do for that? I just do content marketing. I said that, and my brother Ryan said, what is that? What does that mean?
Yeah.
And I realized, wait, maybe people don't realize content. I mean, we don't know what content is, but any advice you can give to me on that?
Sure, absolutely. And it's really, it's not all you do. That's the first part of what you do, is the content marketing. So I would say what you're really trying to tell people is that I know what your clients want before you do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost predictive marketing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it is.
Mm.
And so you're predicting what the client's going to ask before they ask it. So I might, for instance, let's say, and it's a perfect example in my area of law,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm probably the only estate planning attorney that actually markets.
Right.
But in fact, I remember I ran into one at a networking event one time, and the business card didn't have an email address on it. And I was like, oh, okay, really?
Good job.
and he's like, I don't even have a website. I just get most of my business through the yellow pages. This was like 10 years ago, but I was like, you keep doing that. Like, that's why my Instagram handle is Florida Law Firm. Like, I got it so early.
Oh my gosh.
Because most attorneys do not network.
Yeah, you're right.
Do not market.
Yeah.
So for someone, you come to me and you say, hey, Mike, I know you're an estate planning attorney. What do you think people are searching? And I go, estate planning. And you go, no, they're not. Nobody even knows what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the average person is not saying.
They're searching, and it's like you said, sentences.
Yes.
My parent passed away. What do I do? Like, that's the search term.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
What happens when I die?
Right.
When my wife dies? When my kid dies?
Right.
How to bury a body?
Yeah, exactly.
but it's they'll ask like layman's terms, and lawyers specifically are very bad about this. Like, I remember the first time I heard someone say, I'm a commercial litigator. I go, what do you sue Tony the Tiger? I go, you sue commercials? Like, what are you talking about? I said, don't say you're a commercial litigator. Say you're a business lawyer or something.
Yes.
But make it like layman.
Yes.
So what you're doing is you're going into the professional and you're saying, you know your business,
mm-hmm.
but you don't know how to convey your business to the public.
Mm-hmm.
And the public is asking for what you have,
mm-hmm.
but you don't even realize it because you're marketing to what you think they're asking.
Yeah, or your small network you're marketing to, but there's a bigger one out there that's searching.
Exactly, for your business. So what you're doing is you're broadening it. You are doing like public marketing. You're
mm-hmm.
marketing to the public. You're doing I like the term predictive
marketing.
I do
too. I like predictive.
Yeah. You're predicting what the client is looking for.
Based on real data.
Data.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome, man. So what else does Mike Wild have going on? I mean, I know we talked about a lot of things, but anything new coming up with your firm? Any nonprofit? Any events that we could talk about? What do we got?
It's been good. So as a law firm, for estate planning especially, we had a huge influx of clients, especially high net worth clients after 2020, and everyone's like, "Oh, is that because like everyone's scared about COVID?" And I said, no, it's because Joe Biden got elected and the Democrats took over the House and Senate, and Trump tax plan was going to go away. And so everyone freaked out. Now we have a little bit of a window now. It's not going to sunset until 2025. But based on the November elections, I could be very, very busy next year. If the Republicans don't take the House, Senate, and White House, then it is going to sunset in 2025, at the end of 2025. And we're going to go from basically a $14.5 million exemption next year to a $5 million exemption next year. So it's
wow,
for most
that's
people,
huge.
Yeah, and for most people, it's not going to affect them that much, like the average person. But for those people who own businesses, especially, who have businesses that sometimes they're cash poor, so they don't think they're rich, but if they do a valuation on the business worth $10 million, and then their house is worth $2 million, and their IRA is worth $3 million, and then all of a sudden they're like, wow, they are very taxable, and they can't even access the money. Well, they are the worst. They're in the worst place because
it's not liquid.
Yeah, and the IRS comes 9 months later and says, "Oh, by the way, your dad died, and you owe us, 40% of whatever the value of the estate of the exemption was." Which is what happened to the Robbie family, why they had to sell the Dolphins to Wayne Huizenga because they had $47 million estate tax, and they didn't have any money.
They didn't have probate.
They went through everything. They didn't have any planning done.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. No,
Joe Robbie had no planning done, and so
that is crazy.
And so the actually Tim Robbie, who's a member of Grand Oaks, he still is upset about it. But I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not poor. No. They still sold the team for like $120 million, and they paid the $45 million to the IRS. But the team sold 10 years later for $1 billion, and now it's worth like $3 billion. So I mean, just think about that. And they had to give up the stadium. The stadium used to be Joe Robbie Stadium.
I still call it. There.
We always, all the natives, we call it Joe Robbie Stadium. Yep. But now, it was Sun Life, and then it's
Hard Rock
Stadium now, and it's just like over and over again. So, to have your family, have your legacy go away because you didn't do the planning is horrible. So we have that's a big push business wise, and then nonprofit wise, we just had a huge event for Handy Moonrise. Next year's Moonrise event is going to be February 1st. It's we raised $500,000, so it was huge. It was on the beach, feet in the sand. It was really, really a very original event, just like I was talking about with business. The same thing with my nonprofits. I tell them, do not make me put a tuxedo on and go listen to someone talk for 90 minutes. That's not what anyone wants. We got Ranch Room coming up. The Boys and Girls
big.
Stuff. That's a fun one. Wear a cowboy hat.
Bergeron.
Yep, the Bergeron Ranch. I got my big belt buckle.
Nice.
All that stuff. We just had the 211 Nonprofit Awards where we give money to other nonprofits. So you gotta be nuanced and everything. So the marketing I do, for my business, I also do for my nonprofits. And the same thing with each one of those nonprofits. Usually I've got the microphone and I'm doing an ask or some type of emceeing or something.
I love it, man. And just to tell everybody of what you did with me when I walked in, this is why it's so important to always communicate, always talk. Because even if you don't think somebody wants to hear you or what, Mike walked in and just so you guys know, I want to add an element to this opportunity Knox that's off-site, that's not in the Sprinter. And I want to do something that gives back. And my thought on it was, let's do something for homeless. Let's help out homeless. Because, you drive by, we're so lucky to be able to eat every day. And you see these people that are just starving. They're looking for something to eat. And it's such a tough life. So how can I help there? Is there anything I can do? So I just mentioned this to Mike, and he instantly goes, "Oh, why don't you tie it with the veterans?" He goes, "I have a connection, and I'm involved with this." And next thing you know, he's texting as I'm setting up the Sprinter. So he moved like that on it, and now I have a meeting set up, and I'm going to be going out and meeting with and bringing somebody in and giving them something and helping them out, and then documenting that journey of getting somebody that might be unemployed or even homeless, that's a veteran that gave to our country, it gave us so much, and give them an opportunity. And even though that's small and it's one person, hey, I want to help